The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
this is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
It might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Starting a little late today. Taping in the afternoon. Usually we do the morning, but I could not resist doing a retro diary column of the Colts, my least favorite team, collapsing in the Super Bowl. On the Subway Fresh Take Hotline for the last time, the 2009 NFL season. Our friend Cousin Sal, what's happening?
This is it, Bill. Never again. What's happening?
You made fun of me because I wanted a hedge. Sal and I did a tease with the Colts and the under. And at halftime, I was like, well, the under's a lock. I'm going to hedge with the Saints. You're like, you wimp. Come on, we're going to get the ball started the second half. Actually, we didn't get the ball in the second half. Who knew?
I got the ball. Hank Baskett got the ball right in his face, and then that was it. Yeah.
You and I were the only two people, I think, last night who actually didn't understand why everybody realized the Sean Payton onside kick was a terrible idea. Hank Baskett should have caught it.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, God bless him for trying, but you can make gutsy calls and still be wrong, even though it works out, right? It
was a gutsy call that we should not now reinvent as one of the great calls of all time. Because I watched Hank Baskett. Whatever he tried to, what did he try to do? It was like he got shot from behind by a gunshot or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then he got he really fielded that ball with his head instead of his hands. And then the ball, and I swear a Colt had his arm around it. And then, a 90-second pig pile later, the Saints come up with it. But honestly, let's think about it. It's not like the Colts had momentum going into the second half, all right? So it's 10-6. The Colts get that ball at the 38-yard line, 13 or 17-6. It could be over there, you're killing your momentum, I think, with a bigger chance of killing it than recovering that fumble.
Yeah, or the mindset is maybe that Manning might just score down the field anyway, so short field we'll get the ball right back if we don't get it. I liked it. I'm just saying, it didn't really – you can't really say the Colts were totally caught by surprise since Hank Baskett was standing there waiting for it. And,
right, and every analysis, everyone you hear is like, well, and what happens every single time you take a team by surprise? It will work in your favor. No, that's not what happened.
Now, I wish he had come out and just said, you know what? We saw Hank Baskett out there, and we're like, we got to just kick it at him. He'll mess this up.
Yeah,
got to do it. But so, where did you watch the game?
I watched it at our buddy Daniel's place.
Nice.
It was good. It was a little tight, but Daniel did a great job with the spread and everything. Daniel always has 4 or 5 friends that inexplicably speak nothing but French, and so that was fun to.
And guys with beards.
And guys with beards, yeah.
Yeah, he likes guys with beards.
One guy with an ascot asked me what the score was. Giant. I mean, how many years now has the score been at the top of the screen? And I just walked away. I'm like, I'm not setting this precedent. I'm sorry. Can't do it.
I watched it with my stepmother and my wife because I just gotten home from flying to Miami, and my stepmother had a lot of those same comments. But I knew they were coming. It's different when they come from a guy that you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Did people swing behind the Saints, or what happened?
Yeah, everyone who didn't. It's weird. It's like the way I looked at it. I was like, you got one game to bet, and Manning's your quarterback. You want to make money, you go with Manning. But if you want to have fun rooting for the Saints story, and you want odds, I guess you take the Saints. But
we talked about it.
I feel like that we got 3/4 of a game there. We didn't get. It seemed like the Colts needed. It's different for you because you're ultimately rooting against Manning. I understand.
I know. I sold out my own bet after a while. It made me so happy.
But didn't it seem like they should have 3 or 4 more series or something? Something was missing in that game. It wasn't a 100-yard rusher. It wasn't a 100-yard receiver. It was just that one turnover at the end. I don't know. It seemed incomplete to me.
You know what it was? It was very, very similar to the Giants-Pats Super Bowl in that it was totally disjointed. I don't know if you remember, but in the Pats in that game, beginning of the third quarter, the Pats had a drive for over 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. And ended up, they had the 4th and 13. They didn't get it. And all of a sudden, half of the third quarter was gone. And then the game last night reminded me of that. Where it was all of a sudden there was no time left. And the Saints are going down for the go-ahead score. And we're like, wait, there's 5 minutes left. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, it did feel like
Trinidad De La Hoya all over to me. It's like you can never have too big a lead. Like it's 10-0, then it's 10-6. Like if there's one thing the Colts and Peyton Manning do better than anyone else, it's score inside 2 minutes in the first half.
Oh, you're going into the first half on me.
What? Right?
Because they ran on that third down. They kind of just gave the ball back.
Honestly, and they went on record saying that had they gotten the first down, they would have gone into the hurry-up offense with 45 seconds left, which is like, all right, well, if you can make that yard, make it however you want then. It just drives me crazy when teams don't, try to run it up when they should.
Well, that was another, Sean Payton, people praising him because they got stuffed on 4th and goal.
Yeah.
It's a great job by Peyton. He knew if they stuffed that play that he'd get the ball back. Yeah. I don't know if he knew that. No, I mean, the great thing about Peyton is that they did exactly what you need to do. They swung for the fences. They took some chances. They were sidelines really animated. They were totally into the game. And you looked on the Colts sideline, and I just didn't see the same kind of fire from them except for the 4th and goal stop. You know? They really did remind me of that Pats-Giants game where the Pats just, they're very businesslike. And you can't be that way when the other team is matched. I also heard from my friends that went to the game that, it was so pro-Saints.
Was it like 75%?
Yeah, but loud. Like yeah, not like a typical NFL crowd, though. Like loud on every play and really pretty fired up. So do you feel like the best team won?
Yeah, sure. I'll say the best team won. I don't care. I still think if the Colts played Colts football, especially at the end of that first half, I think it's a different game. And then, the onside kick was like, this is what I do, though. I bet and I lose, and it could never be my fault that I picked the wrong side. So I have to belittle the winning team's accomplishments. Right. But the Saints are a very good team. I don't know how my Cowboys beat up on them, but and then they lost 2 more after that. But I have no problem with them winning that. I do have a problem with Manning not getting a second quarter touchdown pass. I apologize to everyone.
You've got a streak going now, though. You got a streak going. I like it. Yeah. Gary Russell. You have a streak. Gary Russell won't score a touchdown a year ago. He scores almost immediately. And then you have Peyton Manning, second quarter touchdown. What did he throw? 3 passes in the second quarter?
I don't think he completed a second quarter pass. I don't know.
Oh, my God.
They had 6 plays, and the last 3 were runs. I think he threw it once. I don't know. I'm jinxed. I did have Dave Thomas under 2.5 receptions, though.
Yeah, he hit that one. That was a good one. Yeah, I think when we were talking on Monday, we were saying if you wanted to bet the Saints, you're better off just betting Breeze for MVP at 3-1, which is what hit. So we at least had one good tidbit of advice.
Yeah,
I feel like the best team won. I really thought the Saints, they didn't make that key mistake, and they got a couple breaks. And man, you look at Breeze; he didn't throw an interception the whole playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize that.
Manning almost threw 2 in the last drive, second to last drive.
Everyone's Breeze. He can't hold a candle to Tony Romo in terms of looks. Much more handsome.
How can you do this? You can't make fun of Drew Brees. You're going to be America's villain. I love Drew Brees.
I don't care.
I support his birthmark.
My quarterback's much more handsome than he is, and yours is too.
Was this probably your least favorite gambling year ever for football?
It was pretty bad. And let me tell you, I made some dumb bets yesterday, too.
Oh, I was not surprised.
You didn't jump on these prop bets with me, I thought for sure. Pete Townsend smashes his guitar at halftime. I thought it was a lock at plus 125. I'm not kidding.
You really did that?
My cousin Jimmy bet it. We're all in on it. I thought for sure. Why wouldn't he? And he put it down. I don't know if you saw it. Not only didn't he smash it, he put it down so gently and delicately. It was like he was mocking us intentionally, the way he did it.
Do you know why he did that?
Why?
You know why he didn't do it? Because he's too freaking old. He couldn't even play the guitar. He's going to smash it. He couldn't even strum the keys.
That's what I was thinking afterwards. I'm like, wow, maybe he just can't lift it over his head like a test of strength at a carnival with a guy who lifts a hammer, and he's 93 years old. He can't.
I'm not even joking. I really think that's why he didn't do it.
Really?
Yeah, because why else wouldn't he have done it? Everyone was expecting it. It's his signature thing. Of course he was going to do it.
Yeah.
They were
And
awful.
the other thing, I bet, which is an abomination, the color of the Gatorade that's going to be dumped on the winning coach.
What?
I went with clear/water. Because I figure, now I'm like, a lot of these players are dumb, but they know that the coach has an interview to do afterwards and everything. He's got to make speeches. They're going to go with water. But no, orange Gatorade.
Oh, my
9
God.
to 2 odds.
Come on.
I know.
That's like worse than betting on the coin flip.
No, it's better. Pretty colors involved. I know. I may have to go to a meeting or two.
So did you have the usual Sal sadness the day after?
Yeah, I did.
It always hurts.
There's no Pro Bowl now the week after, and it is kind of upsetting. It's a long time between games.
Yeah, it is.
But you know, I was thinking though, for the speaking of the Pro Bowl, the week before, what do you think of this? Because everyone hates the Pro Bowl, and there's that week before the Super Bowl. What about a consolation game? This year it would be Vikings and Jets. Winner gets the loser's first round draft pick.
That'd be interesting. I don't think the Players Union would go for that.
You know what? You don't even tell them. You just do it on the fly.
The Players Union was really proactively Super Bowl week. They're on this whole PR campaign to butter up anybody with a platform. Basically, I think they've asked anybody who has a column or a blog that reaches more than 4,000 people, you get to have lunch with the PR guy.
Oh, really? Is that what you did?
No, I didn't. What do I want to go to lunch with the PR guy of the Players Union? I don't even care. I mean, it clearly seems like there's going to be a lockout. They're idiots.
Yeah.
So, and
but maybe he can have inside information next year on what color the Gatorade's going to be. That's what I go to lunch with.
Shoot, you're right. I didn't even think of that. No, they were this whole PR onslaught to try to prove that there's good people now running the Players Union, that they're connected to the media and they care they want feedback and all this stuff. It's like, who cares? Just tell us if there's a lockout or not. But it seems like
they're on the other line bailing Warren Sapp out of jail. And
Sal, this could be 2011. Could be a good year for me to retire.
Really?
Yeah, because I think that there's going to be no NBA and there's going to be no NFL. So what am I going to do? What am I going to move to England and follow Tottenham Hotspur?
Yeah, that's bad. Well, our kids will be a little older. We could start.
That's what I'm going to do.
Youth soccer, I guess. I
want to coach your kids' teams, not mine. I'm going to be Archie's coach because I need to protect you from the other parents.
Right.
But
cool.
This is not good. It's what we're in store for. Right? I think people are going to remember 2010 as the last fun year for 2 years.
Someone's got to step up. Yeah. Is this why our Durant bet for points? Is he still winning, Durant?
Yes.
We have him at 9 to 1 odds. I know LeBron had 47 the other night. I thought that he crept closer with that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty tight. Durant scored 25 or more, I think, in 23 straight games now, which is he's like getting close to records and stuff, right? Joe Meade? Isn't he approaching like some sort of Jordan record?
Probably.
He's good.
No idea. I'm looking up gambling odds.
Oh, we asked Joe Meade to look up Survivor odds because
he's struggling.
Now that football season's over, we don't want Sal to just leave. I mean, you have to at least come back and bitch about a couple Survivor contestants. Although you probably won't be allowed back after your terrible Drew Brees comments.
What do you two care about Drew Brees all of a sudden?
No, he's a nice guy. He means a lot to New Orleans. You're lashing out at him.
I know.
Joe Meade, did you find him?
Struggling to find him. Everybody's got the Oscars odds, but
all right. Well, we can do this.
Joe, it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
the Oscars are the best pictures of the year.
Oh, is that what that is?
Do you have picks for that?
Reality show, yeah.
Sal, do you have picks for that?
I didn't look, but I think Avatar is going to run away with everything, right? Since it starts Thursday, we have a Survivor pool tomorrow, right?
Are we definitely doing it tomorrow?
Yeah, we're doing it tomorrow.
This is good. I like. This is kind of who gets credit for this idea. I feel like I should get credit.
You can get credit. Jamie is going to want a little credit too, our buddy.
All right. Well, I'll co-share credit with him. So we're doing it like an auction. And you have.
Right.
I think we're going to have $50 each person can spend. So you can either, we're going to do what are we going to do? A draft so that every person gets to call up two people.
Right, we're doing an auction, and you nominate somebody, and then the bidding begins on that name. And there's 10 villains and 10 favorites. I don't want to give away my strategy, but
when you nominate them, you could just say, all right, Rupert, $50, you get him.
Right, you could do that.
Then you're out.
That would be the one guy you got.
Or you could try to maybe hold some money for later and try to pile up on like 3-4 people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what my strategy is, but it's one of those two.
I like I know what your strategy. You like the latter strategy. And
how do you know? What do you scout me?
I just do. It is smart. No one should bid on Randy and some of these other guys who are going to have a target on their head from the start. I think it's someone like Jessica Sugar Kuiper or maybe Parvati. You know?
Yeah. Ooh. We were at a wedding once with Parvati. I think that would be just a fun person to have money on anyway.
That's right.
Or Wiley Charms.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it seems like this will play out the way it always does. They'll take out all the biggest threats early, and then it'll end up being, the 3 least likely people in the final 3. Actually, 2 of the 3, and then whoever wins the most immunities. Is there an immunity challenge stud in this one, though?
Oh, yeah.
Was Colby good?
He's good. James is good, the great
Oh, yeah, James. Forgot about James. James is like Peyton Manning, though. He's going to screw it up in the last 2 minutes. See, I get to make that joke again. Yeah! After 4 years of him just being lights out, I'm back.
Is he a top three quarterback now? It's amazing what a difference of an hour could do.
I know. That's how I geared the last part of my column. I mean, there's a guy that if they win that game, he becomes immortal and he becomes one of the best 3 quarterbacks ever. And now he is a guy who won 1 Super Bowl against Rex Grossman and has a 99 career playoff record. And not just that, but I didn't have time to look this up this morning, but how many times have the Colts been favored and not won in a playoff game? That was at least like the 7th time, right? 6th, 7th?
There's a lot. Yeah, definitely home against Pittsburgh, on the road against San Diego last year.
Going way back to Tennessee. I remember they were given 6 against Tennessee that time.
Right.
Like in 1999, 2000.
Home for that, too.
Couple Chargers, the one this year. One of the ones in the Pats, I think, was even. Wasn't it?
When they were in New England?
Yeah, one of those was like even. Yeah.
I remember being about a point in the snow. Yeah.
And he's lost. This is now 6 or 7 games that he has lost. His team has lost in the fourth quarter, winnable games. So I listen. It's not fair, but when you look at how we regard Marino's career compared to Elway and Montana, and Marino's he's kind of dropped out of the loop a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Manning, I think it's going to happen.
I put Brady, Montana, Marino. And I never saw Unitas, but people seem to like him. So,
it's
the top 4.
The problem is Manning's not done yet, so it's hard to say. Well, he can't make it because they could go 18-1 next year and win the Super Bowl. But this would have just settled it. We never would have had to talk about it anymore. And now he's got to hear about it for the next 9 months.
Yeah.
And I will say he did look rattled in the last 5. Like there was a demeanor change. I felt like Breeze, I thought looked unflappable.
Yeah.
He was just cruising along.
The good thing is, though, I mean, he's turned lemons into lemonade. And he got another endorsement out of the deal for he's doing a PSA on the Heimlich. Oh, my God.
That was like a Jeff Ross joke.
Wow.
That was a Jeff Ross joke.
Stop clapping, everyone. That's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for me.
Who's clapping in the background there?
Podcast. No, it's just me.
So if you could have any quarterback for the next 5 years, don't say Romo because I know that's not true. You get quarterback next 5 seasons. You get any quarterback in the NFL to start your franchise with. Who do you take?
All right. Have you ever heard of a man named Jake Delhomme?
No.
No, it wouldn't be him.
I think it has to be Breeze.
You take Breeze over Manning. Let's see.
I don't know. I don't know. Like if thinking about Manning, I don't know how he comes back from this loss. I thought that was, first of all, that may have been the worst big moment interception in the history of the Super Bowl.
It was a shocker. It was just just so like you're like, oh, he can complete anything he wants.
It was so bad. It wasn't even like, usually you have like the pick that gets tipped or deflected at the line, and this was like he just threw it right through the guy.
You know what? Chris Carter and Shannon Sharp, who are probably still bitter about not being elected in the Hall of Fame,
they killed Reggie Wayne, right?
Yeah, they killed Reggie Wayne.
Here's the thing, though. They ran the same play with the same cut by Wayne against the same cornerback 2 plays before. And this time they disguised it a little bit, but it was basically the same thing. That guy was like, I watched it over and over again. That guy was sprinting right at that spot. He knew that's where the spot was going, and Wayne just didn't get there fast enough. But even if Wayne had a good cut, I don't think he gets that.
Yeah.
It was a great play.
It just hurts me when teams just to spite themselves, they screw up. Like, all right, you knew Stover was going to miss that field goal, right? I mean, even with Hartley now and all, you just knew him. So 3rd and 10, you go for the end zone. Like, he's chipping away all the way down the field. He's hitting Clark on 7 yards and Colley and everybody. And, just keep doing that, right? And then why go for the bomb on 3rd and 10 and then put your kicker in an impossible situation?
Well, it looked like we never got an awesome replay of it, but on the interception touchdown, it looked like Dallas Clark was going to be wide open down the field. And the safety started to cut toward where Reggie Wayne was, just because that's where Manning started throwing it. But it looked like it was that classic Dallas Clark right down the middle play where they don't get over to him right in time. But Manning never looked away from Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
That's where
I think you're right, though. Again, with that play, who knows how it would have played out, but he was clearly blocked in the back, Manning, on the way back.
Yes. And what was interesting is they have 40 cameras there. We get no replay of that.
No.
There had to have been a camera on Manning.
Yeah.
And not brought up, not noticed by the announcers or anything. And they kind of avoided Manning for the rest of the game, not really talking like, wow, if this guy loses this game, that's going to be the number one moment of his career now that people bring up until he wins another one, I feel like.
What a mess. The Saints and Orange Gatorade, and Pete Townsend can't lift a freaking guitar over his head.
And a second Kardashian coming to the White House.
Which one? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we're two out of the 3 now.
Forget about quitting writing or sports. I might leave the country. What's going on here?
You might have to convince David Wright to marry the 3rd one. Courtney. I'm probably like the millionth person who made that joke.
She was on our show last week.
I think her stature has gone up now. So what else? So you got baseball in a couple weeks.
That's it. I'm looking forward to Jason Bay breaking the record for warning track flyouts.
Who's less excited about their baseball team, you or me? Probably you.
You cinched up some loose ends, though. You're going to be okay, I think.
No, we're gonna have a really good team. Your
rotation's nice. I'm not sure how fun it's gonna be to watch, though. Oh, really? It's like a 1960s Dodgers team. Like defense and pitching. I haven't decided if I'm against it yet, but it's going to be a weird experience to root for a team like that. That's just really good defensive guys who hit 255. Well, we'll have to go over one of these weeks baseball over-unders and stuff. I think they come out. They're already out, so we'll figure we'll have to see if you're ever allowed on the podcast again after this inflammatory comments about Drew Brees. I didn't know. Drew Brees carried this Nelson Mandela. It's terrible. Fondness. Great human being. He's a great quarterback. All right, Joe Mead, anything else for Sal? I got nothing. I can't find any odds on Survivor yet. All right, Joe. So, and you can't give us a pick because you'll ruin the auction. When do you want to do? I'll tell you right now. I don't think anyone will bid on her anyway. Sugar's my winner. Oh, I have a good last question for you. That Sugar's not going to win. Top 5 2010 fantasy order. Football. Well, I could probably give you the 3. Okay. Chris Johnson, right? It's not too early to start thinking about this. Chris Johnson 1. I take MJD and then Peterson. Wow. Well, the Peterson one, we don't know who his quarterback's going to be yet. Right. Oh, that's true. Because remember that guy who keeps coming back? Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be Brett Favre. You think so? And then who do you put fourth? I don't think there's a receiver that you would put fourth, right? I think Breeze would be in the top 4. – You go Breeze, but Aaron Rodgers probably had the more points than anybody. So, we'll figure it out. All right,
Well, maybe he's 5.
It's tough with a quarterback because now there's 10 with 4,000 yards, right? So
what do we have? Yeah, we had 9 or 10 last year. But the difference is that Rodgers and Breeze had the touchdowns too. You know what's going to be interesting is somebody's going to talk themselves into Matt Leinart about 3 rounds early. I'm going to be excited for that. It's like, oh, the Fitzgerald, he's got Bolden. We learned from Warner.
Yeah.
That'll be
Matt
pretty
Leinart
fun.
and Sugar. That's what I'm parlaying.
I want Anquan Bolden on the Pats next year. Hey, here's my Pats plan. I'm going to premiere my Pats plan right now for America.
Go ahead.
Offensive coordinator next year, Mr. Kurt Warner. What do you think of that? Yeah, what do you think of that? Why not?
He's too old to do that. Oh, no, wait. Oh, yeah, you could do that.
How about this?
Is Belichick going to relinquish that control?
How about this idea, New England Patriots? How about spending more than like $5 an hour on a coach? We just promote these guys who were like in the film room 2 years ago, and they get to become coordinators. Let's go do what the Saints did with Greg Williams. The Saints went. They spent money on Greg Williams. He came up with cool defenses. They won the Super Bowl. How about we do that?
Maybe you could draft a running back who could also be the offensive coordinator. This way, you don't have to spend too much money on something you never spend anything on anyway.
The good news is we have a lot of picks for the 45th year in a row that we'll keep trading down. I'm going to get frustrated if they screw this. I'd love to see them get Anquan Bolden, and I would love to see them hire Mr. Kurt Warner as the offensive coordinator. I think we need his leadership and his spiritualness and his relationship with God. We need that on the Patriots.
Maybe we can lend you Wade Phillips for half the season.
We'll take Wade. So we'll do baseball over-unders before opening day. Cousin Sal.
All right, buddy.
It's been a pleasure.
By the way, you're going to be beating me with a sub sometime soon, I think. I don't know if it's going to be on our show or somewhere, but
we're doing that. It's either going to be on YouTube or on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Yeah.
We're not sure yet, but I am going to beat you. Unfortunately for America, I'm not going to beat you nearly as hard as you would have beaten me.
just give it an effort, though.
You would have clubbed me you would have maybe clubbed me to death. I don't think I'll be as bad, but yeah. So details to come on that, and we'll look for you on Jimmy Kimmel Live.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
care.
buddy. Good season. All right. All right. For the last time probably until the NFL draft, our old friend, National Football Post, America's favorite multimedia person, Mr. Mike Lombardi. What's happening?
Hello, Bill. How was that drive? I followed you on Twitter on that drive.
Thank you.
It was informative, and it was a great cause.
It unfortunately the last 5 hours got a little slow.
Yeah.
Florida, not really a fun state to drive through. Who knew?
How about if you were like a fat 10-year-old driving down there with your parents, and you get out of New Jersey and you reach the state line, it says, "Welcome to Florida," and you think, you're just about another hour away from getting in your bathing suit and working on your cannonballs.
No.
It takes like another day to get down there.
No. First you have to drive through Jacksonville, which reverses all the excitement that you had about being in Florida. Yeah. And then it just goes downhill from there. So you went to the game last night, correct, or you didn't?
No, I watched it here at NFL Studios.
Oh, you flew back to L.A. All right.
Flew back on Saturday, yeah.
You feel like the best team won?
I think it reminded me a little bit of Villanova-Georgetown. I think the Saints played the perfect game. Take nothing away from what they did. They executed. They were unconventional in their thought process. They won that game. They're Super Bowl champs. They can't be denied. But, that all being said, I think the Colts probably regret some of the things that happened in the game, yeah, without a doubt.
Ugh. Well, let's go through it quick. So I think they'd have to regret maybe not making a real go for it at the end of the first half, right, in the last minute? That crappy run play on third down?
I think at the end of the day, Jim Caldwell didn't realize what kind of opponent he was fighting. He thought it was going to be a conventional game, field position change, and what he didn't realize was that Sean Payton was the unconventional thinker. It's an old Mark Twain story about you never fear the best swordsman in the world never fears the second best swordsman. He always fears the most unconventional swordsman. And I think that's what happened. That's what happened to Jim Caldwell. He tried to play the game. I think at that moment he tried to play the game like an NFL game. He didn't realize what he was up against, and I think the 51-yard field goal was a tremendous tactical mistake that he'll wake up for the rest of his life in the middle of the night wondering why he did it.
How many times are we going to see teams screw that up? Because if you remember, 2 years ago, the Patriots screwed up that same situation.
Yeah. This whole notion of, send him out there to kick a 48, 49-yard field goal, and if he misses, we tried. It doesn't go anymore because we know that missed field goals are turnovers.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't adapted that stat in the final analysis, they are. And if Garrett Hartley misses any of those threes, it would have resulted in points for the Saints without a doubt. However, that being said, he made all three. And Stover, when he jogged out there, I'm sure everybody in the Baltimore Raven organization kind of was chuckling to themselves, saying, he can't make that kick. There's no way he can make that kick. Because if he can make that kick, he still could be here.
I actually thought that they were going to pooch punt with him when he came out.
Yeah.
Or that something was going to happen. I could not believe that they actually let him kick it. And then I couldn't believe he almost made it. But it hooked at the last second, but he had the distance.
Barely. It was one of those that just would have nudged over the bar. I think I can. But that was, to me, the turning point in the game.
I agree.
Because Caldwell didn't realize what he was up against, and he just thought, well, we can bring it back. And there he is in the fourth quarter. And as the Saints knew, anytime they punted the ball back to the Colts, they were scared they were going to get points scored. I don't get the sense that Caldwell actually thought his defense was going to stop him, which since the first quarter he never did.
Sal and I were just talking about how, it was just a disjointed game with the possessions, and it reminded me a lot of the Pats-Giants game from 2 years ago that all of a sudden was knee-deep in the fourth quarter and you didn't even know what happened. Do you feel like that was intentional by the Saints? Trying to create that kind of pace?
I think the pace was perfect for the Saints. It minimized the possessions. I mean, when you look at it, most teams get 12 possessions in an NFL game. The Saints got 8. The Saints got 9. The Colts got 8. The onside kick obviously gave them an extra possession. And what also gave them extra possessions were, without extra possessions, the score kept below the 50-point mark.
Yeah.
The reality of that was because there was no big plays allowed. Both teams tactically said to one another, we're not going to give you the big play. Work the ball down the field. The Saints only had 2 plays of over 20 yards in the game, and they're one of the best big play teams in the National Football League. So I think you have to be and that's why there was a limited amount of possessions, because each time the team controlled the football, it ate away chunks of time.
And they a lot of completions too.
Right,
when the ball is in the air, not dropping. Yeah, that usually is what gets it going.
Well, and at the Saints were the number 2 team in the league in rushes and attempts. Add your rushes and completions together, they averaged 53 for the season, and they only got to 50 in this game. I thought they were going to have to get above it to win the game, and the Colts got to 50 as well. So, those are 2 high numbers for teams. That's why the clock kept running.
Could you say it was as simple as Breeze was a little better than Manning?
I think Breeze was better than Manning on this day because he didn't make the one mistake. Yeah. Although that Manning throw, to me, the more I watch it, Reggie Wayne looked like he got stuck on his right foot and didn't come out of his cut.
Yeah, I thought it was Manning's fault, and then I was soliciting opinions on Twitter because some people thought it was Reggie Wayne's fault. I know a couple of our ESPN guys thought it was Wayne's fault. The bottom line is they ran that play 2 plays before. It was the exact same play, and that time Porter was sitting on it. He was breaking to the spot before Wayne got there.
Right.
So he was going to steal it anyway.
Well, but I think if Wayne gets his foot out of the dirt, maybe it's a collision and it's not an interception for 6.
Right. Yeah, or maybe he's able to clip him from behind. Did you notice the clip on Manning?
Yeah, sure did.
How does that not get caught?
Well, what happens on those loose plays like that, not everybody can see angles and where people's head positions are, and, it's kind of like disjointed. But yeah. I sure did. And for the most part, it was a really well-officiated game. They let them play. Yes. There was only 1 pass interference penalty late in the game for all those attempts. And, both teams going in the game averaged 5 penalties a team, and both teams won. I think the Saints, the Colts got their 5, and the Saints only had 3.
Biggest surprise for you coming out of that game? Other than the fact that to see the Colts get basically out-coached and out-thought like that?
Well, I think the biggest surprise was the fourth quarter, the dominance of the Saints. Now, that being said, going into the game, they were the number 1 team in fourth quarter points scored and fourth quarter points not allowed. Yeah. So they'd always been a good fourth quarter team, and I thought the surprise for me was I thought Drew Brees was going to have to lead them back. I did not believe that Manning was going to throw a pick 6 to put the game away for the Saints. I had it going the other way. I thought the way that thing was going, it was going to be 24-24 with about 2 minutes to go on the clock, and Brees was going to have to put them down in position to score and win the game and kind of do a walk-off win.
Were the Minnesota Vikings the best team in football this year?
Well, obviously the Saints are still the best team because they won the game because they were the most resourceful team.
I know. I'm saying, like, I can't remember a season.
I think the Saints are going to be left scratching their head. I mean, the Vikings are going to be left scratching their head wondering why for a long time.
I can't remember a football season, where the team that ended up winning the Super Bowl snuck out a game the way the Saints did 2 weeks before. Like, to get that many fumbles and then, first down from the 33, it's over unless the guy misses the field goal. To not even be able to attempt the field goal.
Remarkable.
And then to get the pick from Manning, maybe it was just the Saints' year. I mean, it really, they got breaks like that, except for that one Cowboys game at home. But you look back at, like, that game they won against the Dolphins. You look back at that Redskins game. Like, stuff was just happening for them. And you need it. This is a sport that hinges on luck, I think, more than any other sport.
And they when they had their opportunities, they made the most of it. Their whole key was they got to keep that game close to the fourth quarter, and they did. And at the start of it, with 10-0 in the first quarter, you're thinking, whoa, this thing's going to get run away from them. But they held on and they anchored in, and Garcon's drop on third down killed them, and then they got the Colts go soft on that second drive, and they don't get a first down in the second quarter, and all of a sudden they're right back in it. I thought at the time when Peyton deferred, I thought it was when Peyton didn't defer the coin toss, I thought it was a mistake. Yet he had that onside kick up his sleeve the whole week.
I read that
would be unbelievable.
And he told the guy apparently about 25 minutes before they came out for the third quarter. And the Peter King had a good thing about it. The kicker was just sitting there sweating, hoping he didn't screw it up. Do you think they just saw Hank Baskett out there and were like, let's just kick it at him?
Yeah, he probably wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I figure he's not paying attention. He's looking around, and then he, like a lot of us, how they listen to the Who. He probably was getting nervous, So what was your view on the Who or the halftime show?
I thought it was an atrocity.
That's what I thought.
I thought it was embarrassing, and if I was anywhere near that age group, it would make me want to contact Dr. Kevorkian, because that would mean I'm that old and somebody should put me down. Hey, Drew Brees, number one guy in football right now? Don't we have to say that?
Well, I think his performance was exceptional, and I think the coaching and the adjustments by the Saints was exceptional. I mean, because look, Sean Payton's first 2 drives of the game, he's trying to throw the ball, he's trying to get the seams, he's trying to make his big plays, he's trying to keep pace with the Colts. He knows the game's going to be in the 20s, he's got to score, and he realized after 2 3-and-outs or after 9 plays, let's say, that he had to change his game plan, and he went back to that huge playlist that he has, the Ponzio Diner playlist, and he said, "Hey, I'm going back to my roots, and I'm going to throw short passes and complete and control the football." And Brees was right there, and he made every throw he had to make. He was accurate. The throw to Lance Moore for the touchdowns, I mean, that was an incredible throw on a 2-point conversion, and it was a great catch, and it was great execution. And I think Brees proved why, when he has time to throw the football, like they gave him last night when Freeney kind of went down, he's as good as anybody.
If you remember, we were talking about blue chippers heading into the year. How many of the Saints have, in your opinion?
Well, obviously blue chip with Brees. I think Colston is one of those players that you could border on whether he's a blue chip or a red chip, but he's up there because of his mismatches. Shockey, because of the mismatches he creates, can be a blue chip player. Their offensive line, they've got, with the way they play in their offensive line, I think Carl Nicks is a blue chip player. I'm not sure Bushrod is. He looked bad on that one play. However, Bushrod usually plays fairly well against certain players. And then, of course, the running backs, they kind of have a bunch of guys, but it all starts with Brees. Brees is the blue chip, and when you have a blue chip quarterback, it makes everybody else pretty good. Look, the guy throws 8 touchdown passes in the playoffs, doesn't have an interception.
He's amazing. And you look at the way they're constructed, really not much different than, I think the Colts are constructed or the Patriots constructed, where you have a bunch of receivers and you have the running back by committee. You don't, you have that guy, nobody that if they have a bad game, it kills you, and then just a bunch of guys and a good coach. I guess the difference is that the Saints coaching was just better than everybody else's coaching this year. Well, Brees is better.
I think the combination of Brees and Peyton being on the same page is unique, and Peyton having the guts to think unconventionally. I think Peyton's guts really. I mean, Peyton really, he didn't care. He was going for the juggler. He knew the kind of game he needed to win, and he knew he needed to play it. If he played conventionally, he wasn't going to win because look, right there on that very field, Tony Sperano played conventionally. He did everything he had to do to beat the Colts. He said it after the game. We did everything you're supposed to do to beat the Colts, and we lost. And I think Sean Payton took the opposite approach, and that's why he was so successful. I thought it was, what a great game. And, we thought it would come down to the fourth quarter. I thought the Colts would win. I thought it was going to be the Colts 27-20. But at the end of the day, the Saints were able to make the plays that they had to make, and you got to take your hat off. To me, Peyton and Breeze together as a combination, as a play caller and as an execution person in terms of the quarterback, was sensational.
24-17, Colts get the ball, about 4 and change left. It was actually 5, so it was a little bit over 5. What did you think was going to happen?
I thought it was playing perfectly for the Saints. I thought it was going to come down to the Colts got the ball with 5:42 to go. I thought they would take it down and leave a little bit of time left because they had to score whenever they possibly could. Yeah. And I thought the Saints would have a chance to do exactly what I thought, get the game to the fourth quarter, kick the field goal or score a touchdown, and not let Manning back on the field. I did not anticipate that they were going to be able, because look, at the end of the day, Manning's uniform was never dirty after the game, other than he clipped on that one play on the interception. Yeah. They never got really near him.
They hit him, actually the play right before the interception, they nailed him when Hargrove got hurt. That was the one time that I actually saw him peeling himself off the grass. Other than that, they didn't really hit him at all.
Yeah,
what do we make of him? 9-9 playoff record now. He just threw probably the worst pick in the history of the Super Bowl. Can you remember a worse pick than that? I'm trying to think.
Well, Kurt Warner's the one to James Harrison on the goal line going into halftime.
Yeah, but that was first quarter, though. This is...
That was, right at the second quarter. This one was, that's why, to me, when he let it go, he led Wayne out there. It was obviously the wrong time, the wrong place for the wrong throw. But, it's like, how many more Academy Award does Al Pacino have to say he's a great actor? I mean, the guy's great.
All right. So you don't think there's any residual effects? You think he comes back? We're going to be talking about this the whole off season. He comes back, he's fine, and the train marches on. They go 14-2 again, and they're right where they were.
I think they'll be really tough to beat next year because of his persistence, his toughness mentally. He'll endure, as I'm sure he's going to remember what everybody's saying about him right now, and because he's smart and he can, has that recall. But I don't think it bothers him. I think they're a good young team. I think the Colts will have a good draft, and they'll probably be, better off for it. I think the one thing they've proved beyond any reasonable doubt is that they don't have Dwight Freeney. They're going to have to alter what they do defensively because they can't hold up.
Why wouldn't they have Dwight Freeney?
Well, but if he gets hurt again,
Right.
Dwight Freeney shifts the balance. That's what made it very difficult for me not to understand how Charles Haley didn't get into the Hall of Fame, because Haley shifted the balance of power for his team so dramatically that you think that they would have recognized that, like Richard Dent did for his team with 137 sacks. So,
yeah, well, I wasn't totally on board with Haley.
Haley's influence on both the 49ers and the Cowboys was substantial.
I'm with you. I just think was he more substantial than Shannon Sharp? Like, he didn't get it either.
Yeah, well, I just think, maybe it's my love affair with defensive linemen, especially ones that can rush the passer and change the game. Like, if Dwight Freeney's 100% in the game, you think there's a little different game?
Football Hall of Fame, how they do it and who gets in and who doesn't, it really doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason at all to it. Like, Russ Grimm was better than Shannon Sharp? Come on.
Yeah, that one was hard. I didn't understand. I think
Russ Grimm was better than Charles Haley? Come on. Hey, I don't get it.
You would have been able to trade in the heyday. You would not have been able to trade Russ Grimm for Charles Haley.
And how about Ray Guy, who was by far better at his job than anybody else in the 70s was at their job on an NFL team, and is not in the Hall of Fame.
Not even
he was
close.
the guy.
He didn't make the final 15.
I don't get it, and I would love to. They should have cameras. This should be on the NFL Network. Don't they have? This should be one of their off-season programs. They should just have these guys all yelling at a room with each other. I think it would be fascinating.
I think it would be very similar to the Vatican.
I would get so mad. The Ray Guy thing, I think I would probably come close to getting in a fist fight with somebody. I'd be like, wait, then let's not have punters then. You're telling me that this position isn't important. Well, how come Mike Cyphers last year won the game for the Chargers over the Colts with his punting? Like, you can't say punting's not important.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's stupid. And then some of the guys that, I can't believe Chris Carter's upset that he didn't get in.
And Tim Brown didn't make it in the first. He didn't make it to the first cut. And I mean, Andre Reed is. I asked Rob Woodson on the set of NFL Network. I said, which receiver was hardest for you to tackle, to play against, and he thought Reed. I think there's got to be somebody in that room that's played against all these guys that can at least make an educated statement about their abilities to play. And it's not always just about numbers. And I think that's my point about Haley. You can look at his numbers and say, but the influence of Haley on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the week you're getting ready to play the 49ers, you were talking about whether it was Steve Young or Joe Montana, you were talking about Charles Haley just as much.
And so much of this depends on what happens after your career ends and if you stay in the limelight. You know, like Chris Carter and Shannon Sharpe are both on TV. Which is ultimately, I think, an advantage because people are still thinking about those guys. When's the last time you had a thought about Andre Reed? Exactly. When's the last time does his name come up? You know, meanwhile, that was the best guy on the team that made, the best receiver on the team that made 4 Super Bowls in a row. Had to have been pretty good.
Now, you take, for example, Hank Stram. It took him forever to get in based on what he did at Kansas City, the success he had, but he went to New Orleans and really, had a horrible career at the Saints, and that lasting influence kind of never let him get into, took him a while for him to get back into the Hall of Fame.
Joe Namath's in there, right?
Yeah.
Does college count or just pro?
It's supposedly just pro.
See, that's one of the worst ones. You basically just put him in because of 3 seasons in one game.
Well, Weeb Eubank got in because of that too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Weeb Eubank's 1-loss record. Now, I know he might have had some teams that were tough and expansion and all that. I'm not saying he was in the expansion, but certainly, you look at his numbers, and then look at Warren Moon. Now, Warren Moon's in there because of what he did in professional football, i.e. Canada, but, having been to one conference championship game in his career and never in the Super Bowl.
Who they should ask is me. Because I've gambled against 25 years of these guys. You went against Warren Moon in the playoffs. You're like, oh, it's Warren Moon. Woohoo! He's giving points. This is great. Same thing for McNabb.
You would think being so close to Youngstown, they would have at least 4 or 5 guys that know the odds well enough to figure out how to play it. I mean, Canton's an hour drive to Youngstown. They could get it handled.
That's why, Montana is like a classic example of somebody who's now slipping through the cracks, but nobody was betting against that guy in the late 80s. You did not bet against Joe Montana, period. And I was afraid to bet against Marino, too.
Well, Marino, it's like, that was the scary part. My first Super Bowl win, 19, was against Marino, and you just, a little bit like Peyton Manning, you just knew he had a chance, but Marino's defenses were so bad, they couldn't slow anybody down.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Peyton, at least next year when they come back, they'll have an opportunity to build off of what they did defensively this year, because early in that game, the Saints were having trouble with the Colts' speed on defense.
Yeah. It's kind of, I think next year is going to be a really interesting year and an impossible one to predict, because you had this whole uncapped thing. You have the teams, as you pointed out, you were the first person I heard even mention this, that the teams that lost in the first round got to, they don't get handicapped by what free agents they can sign. You have teams like the Patriots that really thought ahead and planned with a lot of picks and stuff like that. You have really good teams that might not have good coaches. Minnesota, I don't think he's a good coach. Norv Turner, good regular season coach, but now we've just seen it over and over again by him in the playoffs. And then, I got to worry about Jim Caldwell a little bit after what I just saw. And usually there's attrition with bad coaches or guys who aren't top-notch coaches, where if they're in there for 2 years, 3 years, then you start to see the signs of the slipping. Wade Phillips, I think, is another example. So who knows?
I think the head coach has got to be involved with the game, and he can't be just standing by. He's got to be intimately involved with the game, and I think that's where Sean Payton made a game-time decision. He saw what was happening. As the play caller, he realized what he needed to do to change the game, and then as he was watching the game as the head coach, he knew how he needed to play the game, and I don't think Caldwell, who wasn't calling offense or defense, really was too late to react to that. And that's a problem. You have to know what kind of game you're in. And the Saints knew it, and I don't think the Colts did. The Colts just thought, well, we're the Colts, and we're not fighting an unconventional opponent, and you know what happens when that occurs. I mean, they really did.
I felt like the Saints were locked in. You could see it on the sidelines. It just seemed like they were all coaches were into it. They really felt like they were gonna. It seemed like they really thought they were gonna win the game, and then you go to the Colts side and just didn't get that same kind of intensity.
Yeah, I thought that, people were saying, well, you can see there was pressure in Peyton Manning's eyes on that last drive. I didn't get the sense that it was because of what he was doing on the field. I don't think it was what Greg Williams was doing to him. I think the pressure he felt was, what happens when I give this ball back to them? Yeah. When Stover missed a field goal, and his reaction to that wasn't just a normal miss to a field goal. His reaction was, we can't stop this guy. I think Peyton sensed what kind of game he was involved with, and I'm not sure Caldwell really sensed it. I think he thought, like he did against the Houston Texans, well, we'll make a stop. Like against Jacksonville, we'll make a stop.
Yeah.
But you're playing Drew Brees, you're not going to make a stop. There's a difference between, David Garrard and Drew Brees. Drew Brees doesn't make a mistake very often.
Similar to the 4th and 2 Pats Indy game.
Yeah.
The pressure wasn't, the pressure on Brady and Belichick was that they couldn't figure out a way to stop Manning.
Right. And that's, to me, what happened in this game justified the 4th and 2 call. In an unconventional way, he was thinking outside the box. Everybody ridiculed him. Now you can't do it. But, Manning's ability to move the football, especially in perfect elements where they were able to handle it, it makes them very difficult to slow him down. So if we go for it on 4th and 2, the game's over. We win it. If we punt it back to him, we probably aren't going to win it.
I still hate the 4th and 2 call. You didn't.
I know, but I think, to me, you can't beat this guy in a conventional manner, and that's my point. He's too good at what he does, and the Miami Dolphins tried to beat him in a conventional way, and they did everything you're supposed to do by the letter of the law, and they lost.
If my team is taking a radical chance, I want it to be like how the Saints did it yesterday, where they knew 25 minutes ahead of time that onside kick was going to happen, whereas Belichick, that whole series was a mess. I can't believe we're talking about this again. That whole series was a mess.
Well, I think
it was a seat by his pants, basically. It wasn't the same.
But in the staff meeting before the game, he made it very clear to the staff. Now, the mechanics of what you're talking about is true, but in the staff meeting before the game, made it very clear to the staff, we're going for it. We're going to be aggressive. We're going for the 4th downs. We can't punt the ball. So, the actual mechanics of what happened, you're right. It looked faulty, but the thought process was an unconventional one going in. And I think the Saints built off that. And I think the Saints were smart in how they did it and how they approached it. And I think if I'm the Indianapolis Colts next year, I think everybody, I'm preparing for every onside kick. I want every fake punt. Because you can't play this team normally. I mean, you ask Jeff Fisher, spend time with Jeff Fisher, and, there's nobody who respects the Colts more than he does, and he understands them and how to play them. Not saying he can beat them all the time, but he knows you have to do things differently when you play them.
When you said Belichick staff meeting, are you talking about the coaches meeting with Pepper Johnson and the 5 promoted interns that constitutes our coaching staff right now? I asked Cousin Sal this. Well, let me throw this at you. Kurt Warner for offensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, Kurt,
for New England Patriots.
Well, that would be an interesting idea, but Kurt doesn't want to have to work as hard as it's going to take to be on Belichick's staff. I don't think you can go by with the hours. You're going to have to be there for a long time. I mean, I've been a part of those staffs. You're getting there early and leaving late. But
you were part when he still was throwing 99 on the radar gun. Now you get to go home at 4:30.
No, I don't think that to be the case.
I'm so bitter. I'm just bitter.
You are so bitter. And
the Saints are like the Pats.
Mike Dunleavy relieved himself of his job as the head coach of the Clippers. I would think I would get the happy Bill Simmons today.
You're right. I am happy that I don't have to see Mike Dunleavy anymore. But I don't know. I looked at that Saints team, and I just think there really wasn't any difference in the Pats and the Saints. They're kind of built the same, I think if we went back and played card game and you put all the same players on the board and I put all the Patriot players on the board, I think by the time we went for the second case of beer, there'd be more Patriot players gone than there would be Saints. Yeah, but the Saints had better chemistry. Yep. I think their coach is in his prime and is clearly now, I think, in the top 3 or 4, right? It's on the short list of whatever list you're making.
Yeah, he clearly has an understanding of what his team, and he gets what his team is. I mean, and he knew he was playing against a team that he had to think outside the box, and he did. And you got to give him credit for that. I think that's the essence is, to me, and that's what Belichick is so good about. He takes every game as a new experience, as a new endeavor. How are we going to have to play this game to win this week?
Yeah.
If you're playing Buffalo, you play more conservative. If you're playing Eli Manning or Peyton Manning, you're going to play a lot different.
All right. Well, I just would like the Patriots to spend more than $25,000 a year on an assistant coach.
Okay. Point duly noted.
It's really the only advantage you have, and we saw it with Greg Williams. If you spend the money, you can get somebody who actually knows what he's doing. It's an advantage. And as misguided as Daniel Snyder has been, I think that is the one thing that he hasn't been afraid to do is spend money to bring in guys. Belichick has gone the other way and is doing this patchwork staff of promoted guys, and it's worked out once, and it hasn't worked out a whole bunch of other times. And I don't know. it's cause for concern.
Well, I think the one thing we always talk about how the players should improve, and I think ultimately the offensive staff for the Patriots will improve, and somehow I think the defense will improve because somebody probably will be more intimately involved with it.
I want to wish you good luck with the Sixers, who appear to be ready to do a really stupid trade. I'm concerned for you.
Please tell me. I'm sitting here in Los Angeles. Tell me. I'm checking. I'm checking.
I'm not saying it's going to happen right now, but I mean, Iguodala is definitely in play, and they're offering him around to all kinds of people. And, you can have him if you want Brand. You can have him for really anything. But, yeah, Brand's playing pretty well. What am I not? This contract's awful, but if your team going nowhere and you could get Iguodala and you have to take Brand as the guy to get Iguodala, but he's giving you 17 points, 8 rebounds a game, like that's not an apocalypse. I don't know.
What team in your trade wizard machinery do you believe that could possibly pull this off? The Dallas Mavericks or?
It'll be a team like Dallas that just doesn't care about Brand's contract. A lot of teams need to do stuff. The Celtics desperately need to turn Ray Allen's contract into a player that they will have for more than just this year that might be a potential impact guy, and they're willing to take on money, I think. And so I think they're in play, and it's going to be interesting. Phoenix is in play. Houston's got the T-Mac contract. Chicago's got a clear salary cap space, so they go after LeBron. There's a lot of teams in play. It's good. It's too bad you can't also do basketball.
I could do basketball if they just give me a little bit more time. I could kind of get caught up here. I could get a little bit. It's
the same principles. It's mostly common sense and figuring out the cap, and it's really not that much different than football.
And not buying into the notion that this guy's great, even though he can't dribble with his left hand.
Yeah, not overpaying guys for past performance and things like that. That's the stuff you want to do. And like football, basketball is not going to have a season in 2011. So you and I will be on here talking about Christina Hendricks.
That's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to.
So what happens now? You get ready for the draft?
Going to start working on the draft, start working on free agency, and keep studying the teams and try to prepare myself for the off season as which is the best time, and see what teams do the best job in terms of where they see this league going. I think if you're sitting back in the National Football League today, you got to say to yourself, if we don't have a quarterback of one of these guys who can throw for 4,000 yards, how do we win the Super Bowl?
So who do you think is the best available QB? Jason Campbell? Ugh.
No, obviously Derek Anderson will be the best, probably the best one, and not that he's any good, but the reality is you're going to.
Oh, no.
That's the problem. Is if you're the Rams or you're, Mike Shanahan's sitting in Washington, he's got Jason Campbell. Now that's certainly not an attractive player, but that's going to be the best you have. It's not so much let's get rid of him; it's who we getting back.
What about Troy Smith and the Ravens?
I think he's an interesting player, and certainly I liked him coming out in the draft, and I thought he has a chance to be a good player, and he would have been the starter had he not had pneumonia and lost out to Joe Flacco. But he's better than some of these young guys coming out in college. At least his body's ready to endure. I think that's the other factor that most fans miss. Quarterbacks have to have strong bodies because they're much like boxers. If their lower body isn't strong, their arm will lose themselves about week 8 of the season because they have nothing left. And if they can't handle the pounding, it's going to be very difficult. Guys can come in and play 1 or 2 games because there's not a lot of pounding on them.
McNabb is out there too, obviously.
I don't think he is. I think this, and I've reported this, and I really believe this to be a fact. McNabb controls where he's going to go because his contract is up after next year. Now, the Eagles could easily trade him to a team, but no team's going to accept McNabb without having some kind of a sense of what it's going to cost to keep him beyond 1 year. And because of the contract, follow the money, McNabb becomes a little bit more involved in the trade talks than maybe the Eagles would care to admit.
Michael Vick start for a team next year?
The Eagles tell me emphatically that they're not trading Michael Vick unless they get substantial return for their value of him, and they think they can hold him. I think it's going to be hard for me to predict that Michael Vick can start based on 13 passes and 24 runs last year. It's very difficult. I don't know where he is in terms of how well he can adapt to the game. I do know this, that he's more prepared to study and more prepared to be a better player now than he ever was. It's interesting now, Bill, all these teams that say they're interested in Michael Vick could have had him last year for nothing.
One last thing. Joe Meade, Buffalo Bills fan. Tell him anything that will make him feel better.
That's a hard thing to do in Buffalo. It really is. I mean, now they're changing to a 34 defense. I don't think Aaron Schwabel will be able to fit in. And, not that he's been a great player the last couple of years because of injuries, and his sack totals have gone down. But I think it's going to be tough. Buffalo, you have to ask yourself the question, how are we going to get better at quarterback? And I don't think they have that answer. Trent Edwards can't hold up physically, and their defense is small and slow, and they play in the wind and the cold. Not a good combination. It's going to be a tough overhaul in Buffalo.
I saw Brewski this weekend, and he said Tim Tebow is an H-back and will not make it as a QB.
Unless Tim Tebow speeds up his thought process, speed up his mechanics, and speed up all the things he has to do, it'll be very difficult for him to play. The game's moving too fast for him. He's not going to be able to run himself out of trouble. Now, I have one question for you before you go. Best commercial of the Super Bowl?
I actually kind of like the Audi one. And I'm not just saying that because I was in the Audi Efficiency Challenge. I thought it was the first time I've ever seen the environmentalists kind of tweaked. It's very hands off. Can't say anything about the environmentalists. And by the way, we're a recycling family. We love it. I just thought it was kind of edgy. I liked it. So I go with that, or I like the McDonald's obviously because it was good to see Larry Bird. Those are my two. What about you?
I like the E-Trade little kids. I thought it was great bringing the girl in. I thought it was a great idea bringing them. And I thought seeing Abe Vigoda get knocked on his butt was always good. Tessio kind of coming back to play always makes me happy.
Who knew he was alive? I mean, I actually thought he was dead.
There were two game shows right there. Betty White and Abe Vigoda. They could have been on Match Game. I
thought when the joke of I thought Abe Vigoda was dead. I thought now he actually was dead. So but now he's apparently still going. I was kind of shocked by that. Joe Meade, favorite Super Bowl commercial?
Gosh, probably the Tim Tebow one.
Because you want him on the Bills next year?
No. But first of all, the controversy surrounding that one was way overblown.
Yes.
No one would have ever noticed that.
No.
But anyway.
No.
No, I couldn't pick out a favorite one. They all kind of, they didn't really do it for me.
Lombardi, you don't think Jacksonville takes Tebow?
I think Jacksonville takes Tebow. I think some team will take Tebow.
They have to, right?
I think that, it's going to be interesting. Josh McDaniels made Matt Castle a lot of money and got a lot of things going for him. So I think somebody's going to take Tim Tebow in the same aspect and think they can make him. Now, I'm not saying they're going to take him in the first round, but it's going to be interesting. So whoever can sort through these quarterbacks correctly is going to have a great draft because they'll be one of the few people that can sort them. There'll be a lot of mistakes made on quarterbacks in this draft.
But you don't think Jacksonville has to take him? I feel like they do. If he's on there in the second round and they don't take him, that's really the only way that team probably stays.
Cleveland had to take Brady Quinn, yeah, exactly.
Right. And look how that worked out.
It worked out well for him.
Although, I have to say, though, the Tebow thing's different. I mean, he's a whole other level of famous and popular than Brady Quinn was, especially in that area.
Tim Tebow is an incredible. And the one thing about Tim Tebow, no matter what you say about him, he'll find whatever he has to do to be a player, he will do it. And I believe there's something to that. And I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but I think if you tell him to show up at 4 a.m. to work and do the things he has to do, he'll do them.
I like him. I think we should be learning our lesson from the Drew Breeses of the world that we got to stop looking for reasons why these guys can't make it and concentrate more on force of personality and things like that. This guy might not be an all-pro, but I think he'd be an asset for a team. I hope the Patriots get him. Play him in 5 spots. Have him do stuff. Like it just makes it more interesting. Yeah.
Paul Hornung back in 58. Now it's interesting. This year the Hall of Fame put 2 members in. First time there was no dispute about these 2 gentlemen going into the Hall of Fame: Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith.
Yep.
Emmitt Smith was the second running back taken in the draft. He was picked 17th overall. A lot of people in the NFL. A lot of people said he was too slow. Jerry Rice was the 3rd wide receiver, picked 16th overall. People said he was too slow. He'd never make it. Yeah. So I think there's a lesson to be learned in who's going in the Hall of Fame.
Ray Rice.
Sean Green in the 3rd round. There's a lot of it.
Breeze is an awesome example. Breeze went in the 2nd round.
It was a great, and Breeze was and Breeze struggled a little bit early in his career. Why would Phillip Rivers even be on their team if Breeze was playing well?
Yeah, true.
Nick Saban, Alabama would not have a national championship if Drew Brees didn't destroy his shoulder.
Yeah.
because Drew Brees would be in Miami. The 6 doctors that flunked him would have been able to pass him. Saban wouldn't have been angry because of that. He wouldn't have left to go to Alabama. The whole circle of life would have changed.
I called in my column today. I said it was the greatest NFL what-if of the decade.
Yep.
Because it also saved football in New Orleans.
It saved football in New Orleans,
It'd be the San Antonio Saints right now. How depressing would that be? Ugh. All right, Mike Lombardi. We'll talk to you the week of the NFL
when the
draft.
Sixers, 10 days from now, call me back. I'd like at least a comment on the podcast. I want a podcast comment on the basketball 76er trade. So if they make it, Joe Mead, you have to call me back.
Yeah, we'll call you and we'll get your take as an anguished Sixer fan.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mike Lombardi, thank you.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.